I've been You've been here too. Oh yeah, yeah. I saw like the spot. Yeah.
We're good to go.
It's 7 o'clock. Let's call the November 12th, 2025 meeting of the Rockbridge County Planning Commission to order. Roll call. Commission member Sabrizi.
Here.
Commission member Kramer.
Here.
Commission member Sandridge.
Here.
Commission member Whitmore.
Here.
Commission member Beebe is here as well. In addition to citizens attending the meeting in person, citizens have several options to view or participate in the Zoom meeting webinar as described below. We will do our best to take citizen comment remotely. There are two options for citizens to offer comment. To join the Rockbridge County Planning Commission Zoom webinar, the link is available on the county website to copy into the address line in your browser. To join by telephone, you may dial into one of the numbers listed on the county website. Webinar ID and password are there for your convenience. Citizens wishing to simply view the meeting live or after the fact can do so on the Rockbridge County Planning Commission YouTube channel, also available on the county website. If you wish to make a citizen comment as a Zoom meeting participant, you will use the raise your hand feature. You can press raise hand button on the bottom of your Zoom window or press *9 if you're calling in by telephone. This time we will proceed with the meeting. This is the time for citizen comments. Do we have anyone physically present to speak? This is not related to the bigger items on the agenda. This is general time. Yeah,
We do. Mr. Don Hinkie.
Mr. Don
For
Hinkie
general citizen comments.
has the floor. All right.
And then also I will say, so the only true public hearing this evening is the BARC Electric Cooperative one. So if anyone else would like to speak on any of the other topics on the agenda, now would be the time.
Okay. Did you all follow that? Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. Is there anyone via Zoom or phone?
I don't see anyone with their hands raised at this time.
Okay. We will proceed. Have you all read the minutes in that time to digest them?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve, but I'd like to suggest a change. I presented a chart that's referred to in there. It's not physically added to the,
Okay.
but I'd like to make a motion to add that chart to it and approve it. That
Sounds good. Is Vivica, is that okay? So we have a motion to approve
With an amended
with
chart.
With adding the chart.
To add the chart to the minutes.
chart. I mean, it was part of the.
That's an appropriate motion. So
Yeah.
the board wishes.
Sounds
I
good.
mean,
So we have a motion. Do I have
I second that motion.
we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Meeting is approved. The meeting notes are approved unanimously. Okay, board reports. Neil?
Yes, sir. Commissioner. So since the October 8th Planning Commission, there's been no Board of Supervisors actions on recommendations there. The TCO did meet on October 16th and again on November 5th to review the Dunham's sign proposal, and that's the new Dunham Sports location in Stonewall Square. That is still a pending application. They asked for a re-review with some additional renderings of what the sign will appear to be. So they will review that again on their meeting on December 3rd. The BZA did not meet in October, but they will meet this month on the 19th. And that is their required annual meeting for the year. They have not had a need to meet for 2025 at this point. So they will have their required organizational meeting at that time. The Community Development Committee met on October 27th, discussed a number of topics, the solar ordinance and some other planning commission business that had come up. They will meet again on November the 17th.
Thank you, Neil. At this time, we'll proceed with BARC Electric Cooperative Public hearing, application to amend a previously approved special exception permit, SCP, in the agricultural and general uses A2 zoning district. The staff will now give a presentation.
Yes, Bark Electric Cooperative, PO Box 246, Millboro, Virginia, has made an application to amend conditions associated with a previously approved special exception permit for a public utility, office complex, equipment yard, and solar facility in the agricultural and general uses A2 zoning district. The property is identified as 1972 Big Spring Drive, Lexington, Virginia, and is further identified as tax map number 47-A-50, 15.24 acres per tax records. The property is located on the northeast side of the intersection of West Midland Trail, Route 60, and Fredericksburg Road, Route 60. The property is owned by Bark Electric Cooperative. Per section 302.164 of the County of Rockbridge Land Development Regulations, public utilities are defined as buildings, structures, and facilities such as office complexes and equipment yards, power plants, substations, and major transmission lines, data centers, water and wastewater transmission lines, water and wastewater treatment plants, pumping stations, tanks, wells, and or similar such operations, publicly or privately owned, furnishing electricity, gas, rail transport, communications, water, and sewer or related services to the general public. Per section 603.03-9, public utilities are used by special exception in the A2 zoning district. The special exception permit to develop a public utility was approved by the Board of Supervisors on May 26, 2015. An amended SEP was approved by the Board of Supervisors on April 14, 2025. The pending application is to amend conditions associated with the April 14, 2025 SEP to allow for construction of a building and to remove the period of validity associated with the April 14, 2025 SEP. Also in your package is the ordinance that was approved on April 14, 2025. And then there are draft conditions for the amendments in your packet as well.
Thank you, Neil. At this time, the applicant will make a presentation.
You're both stand up there.
Perfect.
You guys know Chris with Bart. So I'm going to be referring to sheet 2 of my plan if you guys want to follow along, but and also to my narrative. You've got a copy of my narrative and probably a copy of Chris's letter explaining what we're hoping to accomplish.
What is your narrative? That's the, okay, I see it. Never mind.
So really these are the take home points for us. Everything that was approved with the April submission is part of this condition, except there are a few changes. So I list those changes in this narrative. Number one, substantial compliance will be based on this plan rather than, of course, the plan from April. Then on number 10, we're proposing entrance improvements along Fredericksburg Road that were proposed before, but the condition was stated that we wouldn't remove any vegetation, but it will require some vegetation. So we wanted to clarify that. The special exception is now requested to run with the property and not have an end date, of course. We've removed one of the buildings from the plan. We've reduced the size of the building. We've stipulated the building color, and we have done a LOMA in the meanwhile removed the site from the floodplain. So this site's no longer considered in the floodplain. We believe that addresses the primary concerns of the neighbors and you guys. And if Chris wants to add anything, he can, or we can take questions.
I think Mr. Orson captured perfectly of what we removed from the previously Planning and Zoning Commission accepted plans that we had submitted on there.
This is a good time for the commission members to ask questions of the applicants. Chris, do you have anything to add, or how are you doing up there? Doing all right?
Nothing to add. I'm doing well. Good to see y'all again, even though it's via Zoom.
Good to see you, Chris. Yeah. Okay. Before we open the public hearings, this is the time to ask questions. We'll have another chance at it, but
Yeah, it's, well, I had a couple issues, or concerns. The lighting thing, and Chris, maybe you can help out a little bit. I've been trying to, we've had the lighting, that was a discussion point, and we've talked about sensor lights and, lights that went off. There's nothing on your drawings that talk about lighting or anything, because the one condition that's in now is the 1303 point, that kind of, and I had a short time to look at it. It's a lot more lengthy than I thought it was in terms of, putting that on there. It doesn't seem to me that it would require any of you all to turn your lights off when you're not, when they're not needed, or have sensor lights or any of those things on there. Is that, I'm asking, I guess, more of the staff, do you think that meets the kind of concerns that people had with lighting in that thing, seeing as it, for the most part during the night, you're not using it unless there's something that somebody has to come in. It's not specifically addressed in your concept, is
Yeah, I
what
would
I'm saying.
imagine we would have certainly security level lighting all the time. Beyond that,
The lights that are there now on their 3 yard lights, what we call them, and they are on a toggle switch as opposed to motion sensor. One of the things that I feel might not be a very good match with the motion sensor there is that we do get a lot of animals that come through the area. So it could be off and on all night, basically on a motion sensor, as opposed to a toggle switch that we already use when we turn it off. Turn it on when we need it, turn it off when we don't.
do you foresee them being on all night? Not, okay.
So right now, that standard that we're referring to doesn't require that.
Right.
I don't know if that's something we maybe should stipulate that, plus, when they're not needed for safety reasons, that they're off, but that would require in addition to the condition. We do have the Big Spring farm there, and there are houses for people there.
it's request to put the toggle switch in writing so that they're tried to.
Again, I would love somebody to be able to explain that the requirement that's being spelled out now and how it doesn't. It looks like to me that they can light it like a parking lot would be lit. If I'm reading it, the standard correctly, and that you don't turn lights off in a parking lot typically.
Yeah, does staff have any input on that? Neil, do you have any input on how it's written?
Well, currently on condition number 7 down there, any outdoor lighting shall meet the requirements of section 1303. Lighting ordinance, all lighting associated with the layout yard shall be on motion sensors.
Doesn't mean it can't have a toggle too. I think, is that acceptable to BARC? You're going to have, if it's a toggle, the motion is only a little bit of a big deal. So if you want to just, as it stands, are you comfortable with that motion, Tony?
Well, they just said that they don't really want motion, and I think that would be a concern of the people that don't want the lights, that it's probably even worse than the coming on and coming off.
So he said he would be happy to
Yeah.
do.
We would do it.
Happy to do
My
it.
concern with the motion sensors is they would be going on off
Right.
all night.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think the toggle requirement is better than the motion requirement.
Yeah, the toggle could, like you said, the toggle would defeat that if that's, that would, in case somebody, I guess, motion or toggle, we could add that. Yeah, it's not a big deal.
I'd like to consider that as we go. further on that. One of the other concerns I remember from the first time around is that, you know, and Chris and I, Chris Bolinski and I talked about this some before, is that I know there's a concern that, and I'm going to talk about Bark as the company, is that they've been kind of expanding the use of this property here and adding the property over the years. And I guess that's a main concern that people have. I don't know how you write that up and so that it doesn't happen. It's a lot more detailed of a plan because you've got Perkins Orson putting together this. So I think it's a lot more detailed in terms of, it makes it a little bit more comfortable for me, because I felt like last time there was still a lot of uncertainty in the plan. And I think it's a lot better plan this time. I'll wait to hear with the public hearing if there's
And
other
substantial
things.
Compliance with this is a condition.
Right, right.
Yeah,
If they grow, they would have to get a different permit in theory.
that's correct.
Yeah.
If we go out of substantial compliance, we have to come back.
Yeah.
Come back.
The thing I would be concerned with there is that, you know, how do we leave a message to future, is that, you know, Bark is kind of agreeing that they're not going to expand it anymore, that they're,
Runs with the land, so it has nothing to do with you or him or me.
I know, but
Runs
them
with the
coming
land.
back in the future and ask for it again. I mean, the original plan had a field and the original plan, and then that's,
Yeah, situations change, so.
Right.
so if-
They
if
could
their-
very well,
if their
yes.
Situation changed, they would come back through a public process.
I understand that completely. I just said, this, if I could leave some kind of message to the future, Cars Creek, is that, you know, that there's a gentleman's agreement or whatever you want to call it right now on future expansion and, you know, paving over grassy area that's right now, or expanding the storage area that's identified on the thing. I mean, you could come back for that again, and then we're going through this process all over again. And I don't know that that's good for the community.
But the process in itself allows us to
I-
say whether it's good for the
As
community.
I said,
or-
I don't know how to do that to keep that from happening, but it is a concern that I think it's a valid concern, because it's not the first time.
Okay, thank you. Any items?
Yeah, I did
Oh,
have
go
some
ahead.
questions,
Yeah.
in, the time frame in which, and Chris and I had talked about this, so I think it's important to get the time frame to get this building built, because I think one of the things the building does do, based on what Chris has told me, it allows to get a lot of that equipment and materials out of the public eye. It would look more like other areas that are around there. It sounds like to me, this could be lengthy to get this building built. So in some ways, I'd like to consider some kind of requirement for it be built by a certain date, kind of like what the staff has recommended for the driveway. the
Yeah,
Driveway.
Once
Put a
they start
timeframe.
that building, that thing would go up in a couple of weeks once they start it. Those metal building contractors, they knock them out. But as far as time frame,
Well, I don't know, you know, budgeting is an
Yeah.
issue, I think might be an issue that, I mean, if we're gonna require,
Chris, do you have a feel for the time frame on this
I
thing?
would say within 3 to 4 years, it'd be complete.
3 to 4 years?
I think that's a little long to, now, I mean, one of the things this does solve the problem is it gets that stuff out of the, takes the eyesore away, if you want to call it that.
It's hard for us to tell them their budget though.
Well, then they can come back for, I mean, I just want to bring that up. Let's listen to what
Okay,
folks have to say.
all right. Yeah, but given their budget constraints, Tony, I'm not going to make a recommendation to do that. I understand your concern, but we need to get this done.
Well,
in
we're
my
taking,
opinion.
right now, they have a 2-year period to keep it the way it is right now. And so we're now talking 4 years before the building's done. So we just now take a 2-year extension and made it a 4-year extension.
this is a business and they're working with the money they have, and I understand why they're doing it, but any other thoughts on that matter?
Well, I mean, you know, long-term and short-term financing and or capital asset goals work. I mean, if Eli Lilly wants to come in here and put a plant, it's not going to be an overnight thing. It's going to be time frame. There's budget allocation and or cash flow that generates it, and they're a cooperative. So it's not like, they're in a capped industry. So it's not like they can just find a $20 million somewhere to put something up or whatever the cost would be. So
I have no idea of the cost, so that's.
well, it's a metal shed, so it's not $20 million, but I mean, but when you're budgeting out and cash flowing it out, Tony, I mean, you can't judge, especially in a regulated industry, how much individual cash flow. You're forecasting it out, but it's not always a guarantee because there's always cost and or grants associated with it. So, I mean, it's something that you really can't, I mean, you could put a time frame if you want, but I mean, any kind of business and or goal has a long-term capital plan. This is just part of the long-term capital plan. But I get your concern too.
I mean, to me, that we now take an extension, you know, that one of the complaints is that this is essentially a 4-year extension on the situation we have right here, and another 4, you know, adding, you know, right now, if we left it alone and the Board of Supervisors denied the way it is, they would have a 2-year extension, and in 2 years, they, you know, within the next 2 years, they'd have to come back again. So I'm just saying is that we can kind of push the capital, you know, maybe juggle some things. I'm not going to tell them how to do the business, but they
Yeah,
could come back they could come back if we say 2 years or a year, or they could come back in that time frame and say we couldn't afford to do it, so we let it lapse and then we'll come back again.
Yeah, I don't know how to respond to that, Tony.
But then again, there's costs that they've already paid for the survey that you requested that they did, and they already paid for the planning ahead of time, and now it's another
What survey did
application.
they do that we
Well,
requested?
Perkins doesn't do it for free.
Oh, but we didn't
So
request it.
well, that's what Board of Supervisors sort of said. They kind of wanted a more of an analyzed plan out, and they were trying to be good stewards and try to come up for your previous concerns and come up with a plan. And I mean, there were costs that were budgeted aside for that. So
Okay, we can, maybe we address that with a motion later on, and we can
Yeah,
move
no,
forward.
I just,
If you would like to do that. Okay. Okay, any more questions for? Okay, thank you all.
Thank you.
And at this time, we're going to open the public hearing. Is there anyone physically present who would like to speak?
Yes, and I'll ask, Mr. Hinkie, would you like to speak now? Okay, all right. The next speaker signed up is Robin Moore.
Evening.
Good evening.
Thanks for meeting tonight, and I appreciate the conversation and just, you know, these things that you're trying to work out because it's important. And I guess it kind of goes to what I'm thinking as of now, that excessive use of special exception permits negates the purpose and concept of zoning. And I'm requesting that we do not grant the special exception. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker signed up is Larry Thompson from Cars Creek.
Okay.
The next is Steve Hart from Cars Creek.
Steve Hart, Cars Creek. Got this really cool bottle. Some of the Johnny Come Latelys started a vineyard on Stillhouse Drive. It says the Village of Cars Creek on it. I think this is so cool because they came and saw what the rest of us were trying to do, and they wanted to be a part of that. That's one reason it's cool. The other reason it's cool, that makes us villains. Villain actually means someone who lives in a village, and that's what we are, the villains of Cars Creek. I think Buddy and I and Doug are the only original players in this. We've been doing this for about 10 years. And y'all are going to make a bad decision tonight. And that's not because you're going to try to make a bad decision, but at this point, all the decisions are bad. 10 years ago, I talked about master plans. I talked about beginning with the end in mind. I talked about start with the objective and work backwards. And while we're going back 10 years, this is what we were trying to do in Carrs Creek, and nobody from the county even seemed to care. Nobody offered us a building for $1. Nobody offered us a chance to put a community center in our building or in our community, to be able to use the gymnasium, the commercial kitchen, the gym, all that. Wasn't offered to us, wasn't offered to the fire department. It was just offered to BARC. So the county and BARC clearly had things that they were trying to do too. The time to try and figure out when all of those was 10 years ago, when no money had been spent and everything was still on paper, and we didn't do it. And I think I did my job. I came in here and I said, using my professional expertise, this is what we need to do. We didn't do it. We said, oh, it's temporary, it's temporary, it's temporary. And so now the two options are, you're either going to tell the village of Carrs Creek that here's this big utility that you didn't know you needed, but we think you needed, after we told you it was temporary, because we didn't really mean that. Or you're going to tell BARC, this road we've been letting you go down for 10 years, we're not going to let you go down anymore. Okay, that's bad for them. I don't know how to come to a good answer. I've tried, done the best I could with it. I tried to do what I'm supposed to do as a citizen, tried to talk with my neighbors and all of that. I don't know how to fix this at this point. I do not envy you in your position. Y'all, or the board, has listened to me talk about this for 10 years. And now, Mr. Sabrizi, it's going to be some more years, Mr. Beebe. We don't know. We don't know where it ends up. You know, if you'd have told me this 10 years ago, that this was where it was going to be, I might not have liked it, but I could have done some things 10 years ago, like change where I'm going to plant trees and when I plant trees, so that right now my trees would be 10 years old, and they're not. We're having a Christmas tree lighting in the village of Carrs Creek on December 6th. Everybody is invited.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you. Thanks.
The next person signed up is Trip Almy from Carrs Creek. And then Mr. Powers, Carrs Creek.
Just kidding. Buddy Powers, Carrs Creek. So my three concerns I just wanted to highlight would be one, I do think the time frame piece matters. I'm glad you brought that up, Tony, because they are operating under this temporary use permit. Their statement was this was the final temporary use of the laydown yard. We're going to have a long-term plan by the end of 2 years. I totally get what we're saying, budget, they got to be able to plan for it, etc. I also think, as you know, Tom, a metal building is not that expensive. I'm wondering, and we don't know their budget. So I think speculating on that from either side of the coin is not. The fact of the matter is, from a zoning perspective, they have 2 years. They do whatever today's decision needs to be, should be based on that existing time frame, not kind of what sounded like was being implied, like, oh, we'll just give them another extension, when the whole last meeting was that this is based on creating a real long-term plan within 2 years. So I think that matters. The lighting piece, I do really think matters clarity-wise. As a neighbor, I can tell you, and Chris and I have talked a lot about this, just trying to problem solve stuff. He's been a great neighbor on this. They have a lot of motion sensor lights in the building, and they have a big glass atrium. When those go off, it's like the bat signal at night. So, you know, the switch piece versus the motion sensor is a big deal to me, because a lot of my property, especially like the new cottages we built, are looking down on their site. And it's going to be, you know, years, 5 to 10 years before the trees I planted are really going to cause any kind of screening. And even still, again, a lot of just general glow can happen from lights being triggered. And then the last thing I would just say is that I do think it matters the incremental development of the property, because it's a special use in an ag area. If it was a commercial development in a commercial area, obviously you got the room to keep growing and growing. With a special use, the concern from the beginning was, how big are things going to get? So I think it's reasonable, and I know other counties do this. They say this is the like extent of development site plan. You can undevelop from here, i.e.,
when the solar array times out, you can put that back to a field or forest. But this is the farthest the goalposts will go. Because you can look back at the history, incrementally it's moved on. The first CEO said, we're never going to have a permanent laydown yard here. You know, he said that many times. It's only temporary. It's only temporary. Now it's permanent in some form or fashion. And I want to be a good neighbor and get that it can evolve. But I also need to know as a neighbor, this isn't going to become, you know, because they got great leadership now. If in 10 years they get another set of leadership that's like, screw it, let's just keep seeing how far we can push this. That's going to be a problem for me. And I'd love to know that the county's saying, hey, we get this needed to evolve. But I think even Bark's probably in a place where they could say, no, this is what we need for the long term. There's not some other big change coming down the road. And I think that's a question worth asking. So yeah, I don't know.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you very much.
And that's everyone that we have physically signed up. Yes, sir. Come on up.
How are you, Bill?
Bill Russell, Cars Creek. I wasn't here when this was done originally. And I have to say, I don't hold it against Bark that they got a great deal at all. I a little bit hold it against the county that they gave such a bad deal. $1 for that building. Cars Creek has no community center. We can use the volunteer fire department, but to do that on any kind of basis, we have to move the equipment out of the emergency bays. And I'm not going to ask you to do this, but I might ask Bart to do it, that maybe some of the rooms in the building that they have that are not used be made available for public citizens groups within Cars Creek and in the county, because everybody paid for that building. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Yes, sir. Next speaker.
Chairman, my name's Tim Goodbar, I'm Cars Creek District. First, I'd like to say, I see Chris is tuned in here tonight. Chris, I'd like to personally wish you well with your battle, and I hope everything's going fine.
I appreciate that.
Mention of the fire department here. I was a 44-year member of that place, and I left there 10 years ago. And I'd like to say this, before the county school closed the county school system closed that school and done when they closed it, before they done the remodeling for the county officers, it was offered to the fire department for $1. And like a bunch of fools, we didn't take it. Now, I wanted to clarify that. It was offered to the fire department to be used as a community center. I am a member of Bark, which I don't think too many of the people that spoke here, if any, are members of Bark. They're all on Dominion Energy. This is an opportunity for Bark in the future, I hope, to have it, to make rates cheaper for us, because having the materials there, if and when we have a disaster, not so much as a disaster, but an outage. And another thing it's going to take, if they don't have that material there, they've got to go to Millburg to get that material. That's an hour out, an hour to get loaded, and an hour back. And one thing I would like to throw into this that nobody else has ever said is, what about those employees that's already been out there for 8 to 10 hours on other calls and having to sit there for 2 to 3 to 4 more hours waiting on material to do their jobs, which take another hour? Take into consideration that. Gentlemen, y'all have a tough decision. And it seems to me like that the county has allowed this to go on, and times change. Yes, there's probably going to be some more changes that need to be done if this is approved. So I would like to respectfully ask you gentlemen to consider greatly sending this on to the Board of Supervisors. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else present that would like to speak?
Thank you, Neil. Is there anyone via Zoom or phone that would like to join us?
I am seeing some attendees, but not seeing any hands raised.
No hands raised, Vivica.
No hands raised.
Okay. If there's no hand raised, are there any objections to closing the public hearing? Would the commission like to continue the public hearing to the next planning commission meeting? Close?
Let's do it now. Close.
So
We're going to close it. Okay. The public hearing is closed. No further public comments. The public hearing is closed. Okay. This is a good time to hold a discussion about the application. I think the lighting thing is an easy one. We just toggle it. Chris, that's an easy one. We just try to help the neighbors out and keep that place as dark at night as we can. I don't know if the guys will remember to hit the toggle if there's motion sensors on it. What's the best way to do that? Motion
Toggle
sensors
or
and
timer.
toggle? What's that?
Toggle or timer.
Could you override the timer if you had to come in at night for an emergency?
Better be over.
Well, I know you could, but is it a simple process, I guess?
I haven't looked for it yet, but I'm sure they make an outdoor rated unit similar to like a jacuzzi timer where you can actually toggle with a timer at the same time. That would be able to be put on the lighting structures.
Would that be okay, Chris? If
I mean, and there's
Tony, what do you think
apps.
about that? I mean,
Yeah,
that's-
no, I mean, I would like to take motion sensor off there. If that sounds like that's worse, but take motion
Okay.
sensor off
He
and add
doesn't like
timer
motion sensor.
and
Let's
timer.
skip the motion sensor and go with timer.
Yeah, that would, I think, make that better.
Okay. Buddy had another comment about something you said. Okay.
Comments?
Yeah, yes.
Oh, well, I mean, I've only lived here 5.5 years, but I've got to say this is a industry, a company that provides a greater good service that is much needed. And I think a plan, Art is right, 10 years ago, something different should have been done. But now we got a chance to do 4 years. And it's part of doing business. And things might change. I think this gives them some flexibility. They seem to be good neighbors, straighten out the lights. And certainly this day and age, if you can't get the lights to go off when you want it and go on when you want it, something's the matter. Especially if you're doing electricity.
Internet out there.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's, go ahead.
David, Tony?
Good, I'll
Buddy, you-
save mine for last, because
Yeah, this is weird, buddy, but you made 3 points. One was about time frame. One was about the lighting. What was the third point? Because I had a. Right.
Hey, buddy, sorry to interrupt. Would you mind coming forward just because
He's
people
talking
on
like
Zoom
cap
can't hear
restrictions.
you?
I followed him, but
Apologize.
yeah, buddy, I followed you, but I guess we need to get the whole group involved here. Thank you for doing that.
Just that that it's, I think it's possible to say a condition that this is the extent of the development of the site and there can't be a future other, any other thing, warehouse, lay down yard area, expanded storage, et cetera. So this is it, and you can undevelop, like when the solar array phases out, you can put it back to field, you can replant trees, et cetera.
I understand.
Like a cap restriction.
I hopefully the process hasn't protected all those people in Cars Creek very well with the way the process has gone. But my heart of hearts says we have to trust the system that if those views are made known, that the next group that's sitting here, if we're not here, would make the right decision and say, no, they can't do that. But to legislate that they can't grow, I'm uncomfortable telling any business that they can't.
The attorney is. And just,
Yes,
just follow,
sorry,
well, it's,
sorry.
I appreciate the idea, but I think under the way our ordinances are currently drafted, we couldn't do that.
We couldn't do it anyway.
So if we wanted to do it, we'd probably have to look at the ordinances. And then there's also a constitutional issue when we restrict on the use of private property. So there might be ways to achieve the goals, but wouldn't be an easy process. It'd take some time.
Yeah, I have friends that started a school in Goochland on an A2 property, and they had
limitations.
They had this was even though there was more space on it, it was
oh yeah,
this is the extent to which you may.
A site plan, as far as site goes, you can set, this is your site, this is how things go for the approval. And but you couldn't say that that a future board of supervisors couldn't grant them additional expansion. So the approval would only apply for that part, and any future changes would have to come there. That you could do without any question. We could do it under current laws. But to expand beyond that, we'd probably have to look and see what legal options. But currently, we could not do that under our current laws. And there are some constitutional issues about restriction on private property use. What we can do, clearly we can, but we can't. It has to be. We have to say the reasons why and the public purpose for doing so. And then we're also limited by what Richmond lets us do. Zoning, we have a lot of flexibility, but we're still subject to whatever statutes are passed in Richmond.
I'll see if I can get that from.
Oh yeah, I'd be interested to see that. Yeah, I'd be interested to see that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Buddy, thanks for turn number 2 there. Yeah. Additional discussion, gentlemen? Tony?
Well, I like, the history is, I think, important. I think that's how people feel. Like Bob, I wasn't here around. I wasn't here when you could still use the track before the stuff was there. So I do remember what it was like. I think the county has I can think of another example where the county gave away some property that now they wish they had still. But I do feel kind of strongly, I'm kind of looking at it from where we are right now, what the Board of Supervisors did, is that the present condition of that yard and living in Clarks Creek and using the collection center there and using the exit 50 there to go off. I look at that every time I go by, and I'm going to tell you that doesn't look very well the way it is. I believe putting a building up and putting that stuff in the building improves what we have. It's better than what we have right now. And right now we have a 2-year extension to keep it exactly the way it is right now. If for some reason the Board of Supervisors would deny that. So I'm comparing about where we are right now today versus where we're going to be 2 years from now. And I don't want to wait 4 years for that yard to be cleaned up. Put stuff in there. That would be enough for me to say we need to consider something else, because that is the main value to I think to the residents of Carrs Creek, is to clean that yard up so that it doesn't look industrial. That's the thing that people said.
And my thought would be BARC is working towards that goal. Again, it's hard to tell a business when to spend that money.
Tell me if we're wrong about that. Right now, the conditions that we were drafted by the staff that presented, the first one says they have to have that road done in 2 years. Why is that acceptable? I don't know. We haven't discussed it, so maybe you don't think it's acceptable.
Well, it's their capital plan. And apparently that is acceptable in their capital plan to get the road in.
But I've not seen a capital plan, so I mean,
we don't need to see it. Well,
I'm saying, you're saying it has that in there. I don't know, that is even in that. I mean, they may have the same problem with the road. I don't know how the staff determined 2 years for that.
I can say that the driveway entrance is in our 2026 budget. So
Okay.
I'm anticipating to be done next year.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Chris, you anticipated, it's really hard to look forward to that on a business decision like that. Is it, you said 3 to 4 years on the building? You said 3 to 4 years on the building. I'm sorry.
That's correct. So the way BARC operates, it's on a construction work plan, and that is a 4-year work plan.
Okay.
Because of, at the time when this was being developed, this building wasn't even approved yet. It was not in the work plan, so we have to amend that work plan. And then we have to secure the financing to do that. Just to secure the financing will take approximately 1 year to do. And that puts us at not even approved until 2027 as far as the financing goes. So that's why 3 to 4 years is probably my best guess on when we can secure that. But the road is one that we have to do no matter what. And so that's why we're putting it in the 2026 budget.
Why do you have to put the road in no matter what? Is that because of
The-
VDOT and
What was approved on, in April was
that's
that
in the,
entrance compared to the Big Spring Drive entrance.
okay.
Thank you, Chris.
How's the wording of that right now? In the ordinance that was,
Standing ordinance or?
yeah, the current ordinance, the one the Board of Supervisors approved.
We have to go back and pull that one up.
It's in the agenda item. I mean, under the current or the proposed one, it's number 10, the new access point entrance and exit to Fredericksburg shall be constructed and in operation within 2 years of the date of approval.
No, the way we are right now is if it was denied, what is that? How's that read?
So this is the agenda item for the planning commission package, and it's the enclosed ordinance is the conditions associated with the April 14th, 2025 approved special exception. Which number? Which one?
I'm talking about the driveway.
Number 10.
Number 10. It's in your packet, Tony.
Well, I don't, but you know,
So all
I've read a lot of
exist-
stuff. I don't remember it. I'm just asking it to be repeated.
All existing vegetation on the property along Big Spring Drive, Fredericksburg Road, and West Midland Trail shall be preserved. All plantings shall be maintained in healthy condition. All proposed plantings, except the proposed planting associated with immediate area of the existing entrance to the laydown yard on Big Spring Road, shall be installed within 1 year of the approval of the special exception permit. That's related to planting.
Yes, yeah.
11.
I'm sorry. Okay, so 11 is the new access point / entrance and exit to Fredericksburg shall be constructed and in operation within 2 years of the date of approval of the special exception application.
Okay, so there's no change except for the additional time if there was a new.
That's,
Well,
that's just
I
the
mean,
road.
yeah, I mean, it won't be approved until December at the earliest. So it's 2 years from December, not 2 years from the first time we approved it. It was the Board of Supervisors approved it. They already got permission to put the road in. As a,
The existing special exception rules will still be applicable, except to the fact that they're overturned. So that's, I think, why they're asking for the vegetation change.
yeah, no,
So
I
that-
understand.
So the 2 years is applicable from the time of the,
From the first time.
Yeah.
That's what you think.
yeah,
Okay,
and that's why they budgeted the way they did.
Okay.
Yeah.
got it.
So that's not part of what's being asked to be changed in this application.
Well, I without some type of time frame for the building, an approval by the Board of Supervisors of the plan as we've talked about so far, to me is essentially a 4-year extension on cleaning up that yard. And so now we went from a 2-year extension, a 2-year extension, I don't know, is it 2-year extension, now a 4-year extension. So
And I think you're referring to item 13, which says the period of validity associated with lay down yards 2 years. That's that's the current one right now. That's the current, yeah, condition and special exceptions.
and that was the main thing, is to give them time to come back about the buildings and stuff, because
Maybe
it
that
essentially
might
took
be
the
an
buildings out. Yeah.
That's separate from the road. The road is 2 years applies just to the road. That's a separate one, but I understand your point.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Tony. this is little solace, but BARC is a great neighbor to all of us, and they've been working hard to please the neighbors and everything. I think I don't feel comfortable telling them what schedule they have. The solace is that they are trying to improve the site with this building, and if they have to do it on their schedule, I'm comfortable with that. I wish we could say put that building up within a year, but I'm comfortable with the way they're approaching it. So, just my opinion.
I'm good with the plan, the way it's laid out. I just don't like the time frame.
One other thing that, the color of the building and how it looks and everything, this is going to come up before the TCO, as you guys know. So, it might end up with cupolas and three colors.
It might end up
So-
orange and maroon. Is that what you're saying?
I hope not, but the community might want to weigh in if this goes through. The community might want to weigh in on what that building looks like, because that'll be one last chance to put an imprint on it.
That's 4 years out, or 3 to 4 years out.
But we can clean it up now if we want, figure it out. But yeah, okay. Okay. Any further discussion, gentlemen?
Just had a couple things on, I know what number 2 and,
Can we go over the ones that we've got so far? Some of we don't have to go into, but
Yeah,
we're starting it. Go
I just
ahead.
wanted to insert the language of, we're talking about a building primarily, but, I think 2 and 3 are related to the solar array. So just clarifying that. I know it's a carryover from the previous special exception, but acceptance of a fully executed solar decommissioning agreement. Because one might read it to be building decommissioning, so we could just insert the word solar. We're talking about the solar panels.
My understanding is that and correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that the special exception being sought now that isn't applicable to this. This still stays in place from its previous grant, so we're not changing this language here. So that language isn't changing. Is that correct? So the only thing that's being
We're
done
just tagging on.
is the building, the lighting can be done there, and then the request for change on vegetation, the ability to. remove
We
some
certainly could
restrictions.
add that word since it's all new combined special exception.
But am I correct that we're not considering the solar, because solar special conditions already in place, and that special
Correct.
exception is granted in April of this year still stays in place. We're now coming for a special exception for the building of the building, and then they're asking for a change in the special exception for the vegetation
In the period of validity.
and the period validity. Yeah.
Those are the only things on the current application. I don't know from a legal standpoint if additional language can be added that is not on.
Well, I mean, if we didn't advertise that would be looking for solar, so I don't think it would be appropriate at this time to address the solar conditions that exist before. That's a pre-existing special exception. It's not as part of the application. And so we need to address the application as it was presented, and we can add conditions that would be applicable to the application which they presented. So solar wouldn't be appropriate now to address the solar.
So really all these 12 conditions.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, these 12 conditions, I think, were just part of the board report to inform you what the previous special exception conditions were. Not
We have a
what the proposals are.
motion. We have a motion that includes these conditions.
Oh, do we include all 12?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That
Was that part of the application? Then see, that's the part where I wasn't part of the application process. So
No,
was
so
that part of the
the-
application?
The public hearing notice that the pending application is to amend conditions associated with the April 14th,
Okay.
2025 SEP to allow for the construction of the building and to remove the
Okay.
period of validity associated with the SEP.
Okay, no, if that's the case, if it's an amendment of a previous one, then I think if there's language in there, I guess we could address it. I would be, the application though was for the purposes of the building, and they've asked for the vegetation, and they've asked for the change of the period of validity. And those are the three things that were actually brought before the planning commission for consideration. If it's done as an amendment of a previous existing one, that does kind of open the door to look at some of the other issues if we wanted to. Maybe it might be best, Commissioner Whitmore, to explain why you were looking at that.
Well, I mean,
how it would tie into.
we
what
were
they're doing
talking,
now.
you know, the application is for amending it to include a building, and then all the language talks about a decommissioning agreement. If I was somebody coming off the street, I would think like, you know, they talking about decommissioning. What are they decommissioning? The building or the solar? I know it's the solar field, but
Oh, I
just
see- I see
inserting
what you're
just
saying.
one word in number 2 and 3, I think would clarify. And I don't know how we've handled other ones in the past.
Well, actually, I mean, if that's the case, I mean, it would be appropriate in the sense you'd say that you would say number 2 would be for the acceptance of fully executed solar decommissioning agreement. I think that would be acceptable to make clear. I mean, the decommissioning agreement was something that was talked in detail with the applicant at the time. Well, actually, at the time of the application came, so it was an issue for them, but it was something was basically imposed, and so it's accepted then. So I would have no objection in something like that because we're not substantially changing anything there. You want to add that word to clarify. And since we are adding all these conditions or is what presented to you, then yeah, that would be appropriate.
So we should, yeah, the lighting is more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we still haven't landed on a time frame for the building, 3 to 4 years. Do we want to say 4 years? Do we have to put a time frame on it? No. Great desire to do so, but do we even need to say the building has to be built within?
Well, I believe that was added because conversation I had with Chris Slayton this afternoon. I don't know that it was there before we talked.
If they didn't get it done with 4 years, they have to come back and go through the process again.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Why can't they come back in 2 years and do the process again?
Because they're not profiting to get it done in 2 years.
We make the conditions.
Good. But I can't tell the business how to run the business. Can't do it.
But we've already told them that they had to do it in the driveway in 2 years. So
But what
That's your-
Tom was saying, that was already part of their short-term capital plan, to already spend that and they've allocated it in budget. Because it's a board and they have to vote.
I
on that.
understand that, but that wasn't a consideration when we came up with the board came up with that requirement originally. It was basically the 2 years was based on the fact is that the board wasn't willing to give permission for the buildings at that time. So they essentially gave them a 2-year extension. I don't think that capital budget thing was even considered on the point of the board.
Can you guys get it done in 4 years? Would it be done in the 4th year? Put 4 years on.
It's too long.
4 years.
It's too long. We might as well stay with the 2-year extension the board of supervisors gave them already.
I disagree, but
Okay, no, I mean,
Yeah.
that's part of what the discussion is. I'm
Yeah,
just
that's-
telling you my
that's the
position.
discussion,
That's my
yeah.
position.
Yeah.
I'm fine with the 4.
okay, all right. Any other discussion, gentlemen? Okay, would any commission member like to make a motion?
Do you have something, Vivica?
So Mr. Dryden, just to confirm, I know that on previous applications, we did have concerns about changing something that wasn't advertised. So if we are adding solar, wouldn't that be an issue in this case because it wasn't specifically advertised?
I think we're okay with that because in the advertisement, we're supposed to advertise as to the general topic. We don't have to provide the specifics like we did in the past. So I think given that this is not a substantive change, it's just a clarification. I don't think there'd be an objection to doing that. If we were to add something there, like to add a decommissioning agreement in there now that wasn't there before, then I don't think we could do that.
Want to do it?
All right. I'll make a motion to recommend to the Board of Supervisors that the application to amend the conditions associated with the April 14th, 2025 approved special exception permit for a public utility in the agricultural and general use A2 zoning district on the property located at 1972 Big Spring Drive, Lexington, Virginia, 24450, further identified as tax map number 47-A-50, which is 15.24 acres per tax record, located on the northeast side of intersection of West Midland Trail, Route 60, and Fredericksburg Road, Route 60, be approved with the following conditions. substantial compliance with the concept site plan prepared by Perkins and Orson titled BARC Cooperative Special Exception Plan dated October 10th, 2025, with a revision date of October 27th, 2025. Acceptance of a fully executed solar decommissioning agreement by the project owner, developer, and the county within 6 months of the approval of the amended special exception permit. The decommissioning agreement shall include the following: the anticipated life of the project; B, an itemized estimated decommissioning cost in current dollars, certified by a professional engineer licensed in the Commonwealth with experience in preparing decommissioning estimates, who is engaged by the applicant. C, the method of ensuring that funds will be available for decommissioning and restoration. D, the method by which the decommissioning costs will be kept current. And E, a requirement for the physical removal of all solar equipment above ground structures from the subject property, including but not limited to buildings, machinery, equipment, cabling, and connections to transmission lines, equipment shelters, security barriers, electrical components, landscaping, foundations, and roads, unless the landowner submits a written request to the zoning administrator that such roads, fencing, and/or landscaping remain in place. F, a requirement that below grade structures such as foundations, underground collection cabling, mounting beams, footers, and all other equipment installed with the system shall be completely removed. However, foundations and footers may be allowed to remain if the landowner provided written request to the zoning administrator that such foundations and/or footers remain in place. 3, within 90 days of the acceptance of the solar decommissioning agreement, the project owners / developer shall submit a bond, irrevocable letter of credit, cash escrow, and/or appropriate surety in the amount of the estimated as approved by the zoning administrator, which shall secure the cost of removing the system and/or restoring the site as specified in the decommissioning plan. And B, include a mechanism to increase the amount of the financial surety to account for inflation for every 3 years. C, the owner / developer will ensure the bond, irrevocable letter of credit, cash escrow, and/or other surety shall remain in full force and in effect until the zoning administrator or appointee has inspected the site and verified that the solar energy system above or below grade has been fully removed and/or properly disposed of. Once all decommissioning tasks are determined to have been satisfied by the zoning administrator, the bond, irrevocable letter of credit, cash escrow, or other surety shall be promptly released. 4, no razor or barbed wire shall be used for security fencing. 5, chain link fencing shall be green or black rubber coated at a minimum height of 7 feet. It shall be installed around the perimeter as shown on the concept site plan, Perkins and Orson, titled BARC Electrical Co-op Special Exception Plan dated October 10th, 2025, with a revision date of October 27th, 2025. 6, privacy slats at a minimum height of 78 inches shall be installed and maintained on the chain link fencing along Big Spring Road, Fredericksburg Road, and West Midland Trail. 7, any outdoor lighting shall meet the requirements of Section 1303 lighting ordinance. All lighting associated with the laydown yard shall be the toggle switch, timing and/or toggle switch.
Toggle/timing.
Okay, toggle/timing. 8, any replacement power poles or new commission towers shall be made of wood. 9, any power lines connecting the solar array to BARC lines and any fiber lines shall be installed underground as depicted on the concept site prepared by Perkins and Orson titled BARC Electric Cooperative Special Exception Plan dated October 10th, 2025, with a revision date of October 27th, 2025. No vegetation along Big Spring Drive, Fredericksburg Road, and West Midland Trail outside the area of grading and construction as shown on the concept plan shall be removed. All plantings shall be maintained in a healthy condition. All proposed plantings, except for the proposed plantings associated with the immediate area of the existing entrance to the laydown yard on the Big Spring Road, shall be installed within 8 months of the approval of the special exception permit. 10, the new access point / entrance and exit to Fredericksburg Road shall be constructed and in operation within 2 years of the date of approval of the special exception application. 11, approval contingent on Virginia Department of Transportation, erosion and sediment stormwater management approvals, tourism corridor overlay, and all applicable state and or federal regulations. 12, construction of the building within 4 years of the approval of the amended special exception permit.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
We have a mixed vote. Commissioner member Sandridge voted yay. Commissioner member Kramer voted yay. Whitmore, yay. And I vote yay. Also, we have Tony voted nay. So we have that documented. Okay. All right, thank you all. The motion carries with a 4-1 vote. Okay, moving on to the LGCC and W&L Joint Venture LLC application for commercial site plan review, the pool house in the residential general R1 zoning district.
And representing the project, we have Mr. Russell Orson.
This is time for you to take.
And they're leaving us. Step up.
With the only guy left here, please take the stand.
Doesn't anyone want to listen to Russ?
Since we're kind of alone, it's an important private property right to be able to come to to apply to do something with your own property and to go through the process. So to put a condition that a person can't do that anymore is illegal.
I told you, I understand the concern. I don't know how to address it. I didn't know how to
Yeah.
address it.
Okay.
I didn't try to address it.
All right, so more fun, a pool at the country club. If I'm looking at sheet 3, you guys have the plan set. Maybe I should go to the landscape plan, but let's just go to sheet 3. So this is on the opposite side of the road is the clubhouse. It's where the driving range currently is, up the hill. So if you look at that plan, you can see that across New Cameron is the entrance, the new entrance to the clubhouse. And so this is simply the pool and a pool house that will have some snacks and equipment in it. Also, to go on this side of the road, of course, are courts in the future. They didn't make this phase due to pricing issues, but they'll be to the plan, well, towards the top of the plan when they do go in. We've got on the landscape plan, we do have the buffers that are required for the special exception that we got, and it's much further in the set, the landscape plan. It's sheet 14, and so that's showing the required buffer. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer.
I do, and it's related to what you brought up. So can I be a little sarcastic here?
Sure.
So Perkins and Orson are too expensive to design, put the erosion and sediment thing with the pickleball courts on here. I mean, I understand it might be cost to build, but it seems like to me that some of the erosion and sediment things might be impacted by that. And it seems like since it's one plot of land, you would put that stuff in there. You have, those bioretention things that now you might have to build another one instead of keeping the one. It seems like to me that would have been a smart thing to do. To put that on there. I mean, we have no authority here in this, but is there any validity to what I'm asking? Is that, I mean, because that is something that's gonna shed water And it could create,
Will there be another site plan with the tackle? Is that how that works? Will be another site plan with the pickleball courts?
If it trips the requirement for a site plan, then yes. I don't know. There'll certainly be another stormwater plant. You can't do anything without a stormwater.
yeah, I know it's that, but it just seems to me that you could have designed one storm plant for the thing rather than,
Yeah, due to the permitting process and bonding and things like that, if you put it on a plan, then you have to bond it, and then if you don't build it, you have to carry a bond and all those things, so it makes it very complicated. And if you put it on a plan, sometimes people want a time frame for you to build it, so. sometimes
doesn't
it's
your
better to-
members want the timeframe to?
They may, but in this case, I'm the engineer for the owner, so they're not my members.
Yeah,
And
I
this-
just-
And this is what I was hired to show.
I mean, can you think of any, as an engineer, think of any problems that could create that having this plan with this erosion sediment control, that adding that to the, could actually complicate things?
Adding it could complicate it,
Yeah.
not showing it. Yes, adding something could complicate it quite a bit, yes.
Well, what I mean complicating and is that create some things that you wouldn't have had to do if you had put it all on.
Yeah, so like if we show impervious area, then we have to buy the credits now for it, which are $12,000 a pound. If we don't show it, we don't have to do that, things like that.
Just that it seemed to me I'm strictly from a design standpoint, it seemed to me that maybe instead of, now you might have to put a second retention pond,
We will,
but would you have had to do that
Yeah.
if you did both of them?
yes.
It did say bioretention basin 1. I didn't see a 2 anywhere. Is that,
That's a type for the DEQ requirements. There's type 1 and a type 2. so
oh, okay, that's not a number. I thought
is
there was
not.
like 2 or 3 or 4, that
No.
would be 4 of them.
It's a different design.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Learned something today.
Yep.
Finished with your presentation.
I am.
Just upset you couldn't tell me.
You guys
the
any
decibel pool.
recommendations for staff or anything
Okay.
like that?
Couldn't tell me the decibel pool.
I'm gonna find out. I'm gonna tell you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you. So about coming to you guys for plans, it doesn't matter what I think, but I certainly don't mind coming, and we have good chats and we get good ideas, and I get to learn some stuff from you guys that I might not have known. So even though I understand that it might feel a little bit like kissing your sister or something, it is valuable, I think.
Okay.
So we're happy to do it.
Well, one of the things that, and is Chris still on?
I am.
Chris, I had sent you that note in terms of the reason for the change in the site plan review. I mean, can you elaborate on what we discussed or what we shared in the email? In terms of the timeframes and things?
I'm not recalling that. What conversation you're chatting about?
Well, I mean, to me, in reading the new Commonwealth Code that says about why we don't, we're not doing it, I got the impression that most of it was timing, and that they wanted to shorten time
State
and not have to go through that.
State regulation.
It's a statute, I think. It's not clear. Well, what's clear in there is they want to remove the planning commission from a decision-making process. They made that clear in the way they wrote it.
Right, but there's also a 60 versus 40 requirement.
There's some changes in timing too. So I think my personal view on it was that developers were not pleased with having to go through planning commissions, and so they requested changes. And so it was to expedite that. But the main point behind it was to create a designated agent and then make it clear that designated agent cannot be the planning commission.
Right.
And so that was what's happened. So it's the, and so.
But I want to,
And so our designated agent is, Chris has decided that he would like to keep the planning commission in the loop And that's why we still have the presentations to the planning commission.
Okay, I mean, but because of, if it is 40 days now, that could cause some problems because we only meet every 30 days.
But this is, the designated agent has the responsibility to make his ruling on that within the timeframe within the statute. And so it's, as we said, Chris has felt that this is good for the planning commission and good for the public to have an opportunity to hear about major site plans. I mean, as Russ indicated, the question whether the pickleball courts themselves would qualify to be required to come for a site plan, that'll actually be Chris's determination, but it's not on the face of the statute. It's, it may or may not be large enough.
And you guys remember the problem. We work in jurisdictions where getting before the planning commission takes a long time, but you guys were never a problem.
Thank you, sir. All right. Hey, Neil, talk to us about real parties of interest.
Yes, at its October 8th, 2025 meeting, the Planning Commission instructed staff to place a discussion of disclosure of real parties in interest. Per Code of Virginia 15.2-2289, localities may provide by ordinance for disclosure of real parties in interest. In addition to the powers granted by this chapter, localities may provide by ordinance that the local planning commission, governing body, or zoning appeals board may require any applicant for a special exception or a special use permit, amendment to the zoning ordinance or variance to make complete disclosure of the equitable ownership of the real estate to be affected, including, in the case of corporate ownership, the name of stockholders, officers, and directors, and in any case, the names and addresses of all the real parties of interest. However, the requirement of listing names of stockholders, officers, and directors shall not apply to a corporation whose stock is traded on a national or local stock exchange and having more than 500 shareholders. In the case of a condominium, the requirement shall apply only to the to the title owner, contract purchaser, or leasee if they own 10% or more of the units in the condominium. In some localities, the Board of Zoning Appeals acts on special exception permits. That is not the case in Rockbridge. The BZA is responsible for variances and appeals of zoning administrators' determinations. Staff would anticipate that the disclosure would pertain to the special exceptions and amendments to the zoning ordinance, rezoning map amendments. Recommendation: consider the information provided, and if there is a consensus of the commission, staff will prepare the zoning text amendment language for the commission's consideration at the December 10th, 2025 Planning Commission meeting.
Thank you, Neil. Solar ordinance discussion.
I think you gotta make a motion.
Can we discuss that a little?
Yeah, let's
Because,
discuss.
I mean,
it, please.
there's
Yes.
no real recommendation there other than, one of the things that we were hoping to get is, how to word it in the ordinance so that it applies to not only the solar, but to everything. Did some research. I mean, the stuff that being able to get this information, it may be simple language that he puts in there where the difficulty could be is that how do we revise the application form so that we get this information? It's not something we've been asking for now, but I mean, some of the things that the value of this is it could identify conflicts of interest that we didn't already know about. I think it helps with transparency in terms of these companies that come in, really who's doing that. We saw that in the solar, I think. It does allow the evaluators to, I'd say the public to go ahead and do their own research into those backgrounds based with information that they know. Maybe even contact them and ask them questions and things. So I think that's valuable to go ahead and use the authority that the Commonwealth has given, particularly in case the solar. I think to me illustrated that need. There could be other needs of other, a condominium. Let's say we talk about affordable housing. We could be building condominiums here in the future.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I would leave it to
Again, I don't know
staff.
how to
Yeah.
put the language.
Yeah.
together.
I would leave it to staff to put the language in. Once real parties of interest is defined, which Neil just did, then I think he just has to include it in any document that the applicant or whatever. And staff, you're cued to figure out how to make sure that real parties of interest gets in applications as needed. Just leave that to staff maybe and say,
Well, it does have to have an ordinance in order to authorize it. Is that right?
Yeah, generally and one thing to keep in mind on this, and this is something that as I was preparing for this meeting that really dawned on me, the only thing we're authorized to do is to find the real parties of interest of the owners of the real estate. So if a project were to get me out, so that's actually what the statute says itself. Says, and that's important to keep in mind to set expectations. Says that to make complete disclosure of the equitable ownership of real estate to be affected.
So you're not talking about like corporational. So if someone
Well,
wants
if
to
a
take it in
corporation owns
S
the real
corp,
estate, if the
well, you
corporation
can
owns
find
it, you
that.
can
I
go
thought
through
it
that.
said, and
S corps would be, we would.
But if
we would
I
go
S
through
corp and throw an LLC under top of it, I can't ask.
we can keep going. No, we can keep going on that. But the question is, it's not if it's if the developer, for example, comes in, if they don't own the real estate, we can't ask for who chooses.
so it doesn't, so with solar. So
That's not, I mean, that's what the statute language
So
says.
since
We have to
this-
let- And I understand that because I think our discussions previous has been that we can look through that. But the statute actually only applies to the equitable ownership of the real estate to be affected by the zoning or whatever it might be.
So
That's the
are we
actual
not
language.
allowed on a solar project to ask
in
who
why
the-
I'm not aware.
who the real?
Yeah, and that's,
Didn't
and
read
that's,
it that way.
and what I found it in many jurisdictions that have adopted ordinances, they basically just taken the language of the statute and adopted that as it.
And that's,
And then, so it'll apply across to everything for for special exceptions, special use permits, amendments, zoning ordinances or variances. We can choose if we don't want to apply to variances, we could pull that out, but most jurisdictions have just done that. And then we can find this is Loudoun County's, this is their form that they provide that everybody has to fill in. So there's plenty of examples that we can pull from other jurisdictions that use that too. So it won't be that difficult to come up with forms that would be used. But you're correct. It needs to be done by an ordinance. And I think that's the language you said here would be an amendment to the text amendment to the language of the LDR, which is done by ordinance. And so that's
You need from us tonight, Neil, on this.
At this point, just a recommendation.
Move forward.
A recommendation to prepare a zoning text amendment language for the commission's consideration at the December 10th meeting. So the language will be prepared for our next scheduled meeting.
I'm fine with that.
Everybody good with that?
Yes.
Yes. Recommendations made. Tony? you
Yep.
good? Yep.
yeah, well, I do want to,
I know, actually, as I read through that, my understanding was similar to you. I think you and I discussed this in the past.
Yeah.
And so, but and I haven't been able to find any other statute other than this statute, which is applicable. And so it's clear that that's what, but we could, I'm happy. to
well,
discuss
see that, one of the things I'm concerned with is that what precipitated my interest in this. And I may have a meeting with you to.
And I'm happy to discuss it because my previous career was to take language like this and find a way around it. And there's.
Well, I mean, I think
if
it-
you're
you
a
know,
developer, there's a lot of ways.
Based on what we've had with the solar things is that there is, as you describe it, there's an LLC created
Oh, yeah.
and it is a way of hiding.
No, we can get,
everything
we
that's-
can get through LLCs. We can get through all the way back. That's not an issue.
But it's all about the landowner. though.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
that's where they get you
And-
because
and-
it's
yeah.
not the
Lease.
landowner.
In most of these cases, the landowner is the
Yeah.
local farmer.
Yeah.
And so that's the concern I have is what the actual practical impact of this might be. But in the
Can ask
process,
for it.
but in the process of doing this, if
Take
there's
it
any
back.
other way around this, because we've had citizens in the county have come in to discuss this. And if there's any other way that we can expand that, then we're happy to do so. But we can't do anything. We can't, unless there's some legislation I'm not aware of, which there could be. We can't go beyond what we're allowed to by the statute. That's very
Disappointing.
clear.
Because that doesn't solve the main problem. I mean, I think it's still worth it, but it's
yeah.
not, it doesn't
It's-
solve the problem that
Yeah.
I thought we.
But
You're thinking the actual developer uncovering that.
Well, yeah, I just wanted, the
yeah,
the
it's good
background. the
call.
interest.
And that's certainly, that was certainly the notion of the zoning text amendment, because I was, previous conversations, I was thinking that the equitable ownership referred to the right to benefit from the property, even if the equitable ownership does not have a legal title to it, if you will. But it's certainly something we can
Yeah,
look
we
into.
can look at that. That's a good point there, Chris, and we'll look into
Yeah.
it. Okay, I think we'll, but that's something that we'll have to answer before we present the language to you next week.
Couple different moving parts, but it's good. It's certainly good worth pursuing.
Yeah.
You have enough now on that one, Neil?
Yes.
Thank you. Solar ordinance discussion.
Yes. Prior to holding a public hearing, staff would like to review the draft solar ordinance that was finalized on April the 8th, 2025, draft definitions and draft uses in the various zoning districts.
That's review.
And so at this point, considering the information provided, if there's a consensus of the commission, staff will advertise a public hearing for the December 10th, 2025 Planning Commission meeting.
Yeah, I personally have read it, looked at the changes. I looked at the definitions too. I don't know if everybody here is in the same position. Everybody give me your thoughts.
I'm ready.
Ready.
Chris and I talked about this at length this afternoon. The draft definitions were not created in April. They were created here last few weeks. I believe the definitions in some cases have overstepped what we were trying to do with the solar ordinance. You know, last time we had the extensive conversation about what I would like to have seen, you know, some of those things that I mentioned before that were in that chart that I wanted in the briefing is restrictions on sizes. I've reconciled, you know, restriction on sizes, how close they might be, how much of the land in the property, protecting prime farmland, all those things you've heard from me before. I've kind of reconciled myself that I don't have a consensus on those things. We did get a consensus on the real party of interest, and now I'm disappointed about that, but that's a different story. But I believe some of these definitions, particularly the ones on public utility, I really expected the definitions to be things within the ordinance that weren't defined elsewhere. We have been doing solar under the guise of a public utility. That public utility thing is defined currently in our land development regulations, and it also is identified as whether they're a by right or a special exception thing in each one of the things. This changes a lot of that. And that goes beyond, because now public utility has two definitions that we didn't have before. We haven't discussed. I don't know if it was something that the committee went through. I think with these definitions, I don't see any reason why we can't keep public utility defined the way it is right now. It also created some changes. I started to look through them. The conservation district, which is one of those areas that I would be concerned. Before it didn't, now it does. A1 now does not, but it did before. That goes, this is public utilities I'm talking about now, major is the
Yeah,
definition.
let's ask the question, at least in the conservation district, it got added in. What, do you guys know why that, I can't remember if it was special exception or not, but it was added in on C, was that C1?
Yes.
Chris, would you be able to speak to some of the thoughts on where it was added? Not sure if Chris is still here.
Chris,
Yeah, this is the discussion that we need to have as far as the commission goes. Where do y'all think it'd be appropriate to have a major or minor public utility? Obviously, the large majority of our conservation zone is either national forest, and they would be exempted, as we saw with the Balcony Downs to Buena Vista. You know, y'all did not take action on that particular section of the major transmission line because it's exempt from zoning. So now that's not to say there's not county-owned properties that would be zoned conservation, that there's some merit to the discussion of saying, okay, well, you know, in a conservation zone, should we have a major public utility, or even, you know, Tony and I talked about earlier today, like you said, as far as the agricultural and limited use district, you know, is that appropriate to have a major public utility?
One first though. I mean, you mentioned C1. Let's not jump to the next one until
we'll stick with C1.
Yeah.
And Chris, to clarify, so essentially you're talking about the Dominion applications that have come through before. So that would be considered a minor public utility service at this point, or major?
No, that would be considered a major. It has to do with the immediate vicinity or regional in nature. So those projects that you see, the major transmission lines, are certainly regional in nature. And then it goes on, obviously, to say utility transmission lines of a regional nature, which are not otherwise reviewed and approved by the State Corporation Commission. That's where some of our utility lines are exempt from zoning per the Code of Virginia. I think the number is 138 kV, if I recall correctly, going off the top of my head. So if it's 138 or more, it's exempt from local zoning. If it's 138 or less, it's not exempt. And the ones we've been seeing, of course, were 115 kV. So they were not exempt from zoning.
But I mean, the discussion though is around public utility and whether or not we can continue to use that definition to cover solar. And, you know, that's what I'm saying is right now is that I don't, you know, because Chris and I talked about it. In fact, I don't know. I think the definition of public utility is pretty basic. We're now breaking it into major and minor, and I don't know what the real difference is.
It's the main difference is going to be if it's regional or not. You know, the example that we gave is that you and I talked about is a pump station for individual development, privately owned, I should say. And so would that be a use by special exception, or would a major water and sewer extension be a public? It would certainly be a major public utility, but should that require a special exception?
But now we're talking about things other than solar, and this was all about solar. So we're making changes that I think should be separated, that maybe those changes are valid, but they should be done separate from the solar ordinance. They shouldn't, it's.
But to clarify,
We've talked about this continuously, even with the solar ordinance. You know, the solar ordinance is one thing, and then I've even said at the Planning Commission multiple times that once you get the solar ordinance, then you're going to have to do a zoning text amendment to allow the solar ordinance to flow with the current land development regulations.
I don't understand why they don't flow now.
so to add to that, the definitions that we're discussing would be applicable to all of the land development regulations, not just the solar ordinance.
I understand. That's my point exactly, is that we've gone beyond the solar ordinance to public utilities in general. And we've not, I mean, this is the first we're discussing it. The solar committee didn't discuss it. So we're trying to, in some way, sneak in a zoning text amendment.
It's not sneaking in at all. I disagree with that, because we're having a public discussion now, and we're going to decide to take it to public hearing or not.
And from a legal point of view, I think it's acceptable to have these here because they are tied into solar, and we could advertise as such. But I understand the point you're making, and I think that's more of a, it's not a legal, from a legal point of view, we could do it this way. And, but the question is whether,
I mean, what is your,
as a commission, whether you want to do it that way or not.
your
That's
opinion
decision.
on how these definitions are worded?
Oh, well, we worked extensively with Chris's office. My WNL extern worked heavily in this and did a wonderful job coming up with the proposed definitions and the comparison. The distinction between public utility services, majors, public utility service, minor is not a unique idea to us. This comes from other areas. You decide to do it that way.
Chris gave me the list of
Yeah.
things, and there was only one county that did this.
And so it's not unique to us. So we looked to these and pulled it from other areas. So the question and from a legal point of view, we can do this. From a policy point of view, that's your as commissioners, you can make that call whether you agree to have it done that way or not. So this is how the staff, after extensive work, has decided they felt would be the best way to do it.
Okay, the two differences I see in the definition is regional and immediate vicinity.
Yeah.
What's regional?
Those are main ones, and sizes of the quarter acre size too.
Well, the quarter acre only applies to solar, which is already in the ordinance. Making that clear. So this doesn't.
Well, it's greater or towards are smaller. I mean, so it's solar projects. The size so minor would be less than.
Yeah, but in the applicability section of the
Sure.
solar ordinance says quarter acre, so that's covered.
Yeah.
I'm saying the main difference between those two, in my view, is regional versus immediate vicinity.
Yeah, and I think that Chris decided that he would like to have those distinctions in there. So as I said, the question and I think why Chris says we're just going to have discussion about this now is the question. I've
given him the reasons. I just think that we can move forward with the solar ordinance the way it is, and I can still use those criteria that I fought for last meeting for my own personal vote.
Yeah.
I think they're all valid in terms of an individual, but now I can go, instead of limiting to 50 acres for a solar thing, I can go to 51 now because I can decide it's close enough, because I'm getting that leeway, because most of the things in the solar ordinance talk about consideration or minimize and things like that. So that's all subjective.
I will say, as I said earlier today, that the public utility definition needs amended for various reasons. And so if you want to, we can, if the consensus of the commission is to rework the existing definition of public utilities in a different format or different definition that we have here as far as major and minor, we can certainly work on that, bring it back to y'all next month.
You could make an exception to solar for public utility, and that might have been as well. If a development wanted to put in a well and they had to come for a special exception permit to put that well in,
that would not be the case, because that would be purely the immediate vicinity, obviously.
Oh no, I'm talking about the old definition of public utility. If we consider that a public utility,
that could be problematic. As same with the solar facility. You're correct.
It can be how would it be problematic?
Because right now it's wells. Wells is spelled out in public utilities, and it's a special exception in the vast majority of the county. The current definition expressly states wells.
If I may, I think on some. The reason why we decided to go ahead and address public utilities in this case and the changes, because we know it's something needs to be changed. We figure since this is directly applicable to solar also, that now would be an appropriate time to bring it up. But it's I think that was the thought process behind there. As everyone's aware, we're at the early stages of the process of revising completely the land development regulations, and quite a lot of stuff has to be done there. So I think the idea behind this was, since it's attached with what we're doing with solar, let's go ahead and kill two birds with one stone type of concept. But it's so from a legal point of view, I think we're perfectly fine with that, as long as we properly advertise it for the public hearing. The question is to whether you want to do this now or separately. That would be a direction that you would provide to the staff on that. for us, it's just easier to do it this way, at least in our thought of view. And we're going to have to do this anyway. So why don't we do it now? Was the thought behind it. And so it's
And there are several definitions that are presented here that are not currently in our
correct. Yeah.
in our regulations.
But most of those other ones refer back to the solar ordinance.
Yeah, a lot of these are tied in. I mean, this came about because we were looking at solar ordinance and figuring what's the best way to
That's what
implement
I'm saying.
it.
What I
Yeah.
expected when I saw these was not a redefining of public utility, but I saw words that were in the solar ordinance that needed to be defined.
Yeah, and I think the only way we can explain it is that we're trying to achieve everything and figure, since this does solar ordinance clearly attaches on, depends on the definition of public utility. If we're going to change, if we need to change the definition of public utility, why don't we do it now?
My
We're
recommendation,
gonna have to do it at some point.
my
anyway.
recommendation though is to have one definition, not a major and minor. I think.
Yeah, and that's something.
And then with that being said, how will you make a distinction between it being a public utility, being a special exception that y'all see monthly or not?
Repeat that, please.
How would you make the distinction of being a special exception or not? Because the uses, if you don't change the definition, the uses are there. Public utilities are essentially.
You are proposing a change in the definition. So if well is problematic, let's fix it. Fix that.
But keep it as a special exception.
Well, you could, I mean,
like it is now.
If well is the problem, then you can say with the exception of.
I don't think well's the problem. That's just the one that we had chatted about.
I think data center in there is also a problem, as we talked about that too. Data center today is a scary term for a lot of people. It uses a lot of electricity, and I think in general the data center in the definition, as it stands right now, is by itself problematic because data centers are typically not public utilities, at least any definition that I can find currently.
As we said, we're looking at other definitions from other areas, and some have treated them that way. And I think the idea behind that the issue is here, as Chris mentions, we realize that by passing the solar ordinance as it stands or with minor modifications, we will have to go through and make adjustments throughout our LDR anyway. And so this is the first shot at doing this. The question of, I think Chris is correct right now, the way the utility definition is, it creates some gray areas to whether or not you have to get permission, whether you have to get special exception permits. So if, for example, if the MSA wants to put a pump onto one of their lines, do they have to come in and get a special exception for a pump, which is clearly just going to affect a certain small area there? Under the current language, yes. But is that a good use of resources or not? But if they're going to do something larger, then yes, that's what we're trying to capture, is to allow for some of these smaller areas, to the small things that have to happen, not to have to go through the process of getting a special exception, but still to make sure we preserve it, to protect anything that will affect a larger area, regional area. We felt that it's the appropriate use of government to step in and make sure that we can have some control over it. While small things we think should be able to go through as they're now proposed to be as a by right. That could be changed. I mean, these things are all up to the Planning Commission's recommendation, but our view on it was that this is would be appropriate time to address it. And we did like the idea of breaking it in between major and minor, because we felt that would be a logical way to break this apart, where some things we just don't think it's worth the Planning Commission's time or the Board of Supervisor's time to do it, and it won't really impact neighbors, so it's not going to have a public impact. Well, a regional one clearly would, and a regional one clearly we need to have that before the public and before the Planning Commission and before the Board of Supervisors. And it's expensive and time-consuming process, as you know. If you want to go for a special exception, that's a matter of months, and to go quickly, and so that's we want to make sure that we're not unduly infringing upon people's right to use their property by making that distinction. So that's the area there. So I think I'm quite comfortable with having the distinction. I think that there's a good reason to maybe have a discussion as to what should be major and what should be minor. That's a valid discussion. But I mean, it's also valid to say no, we don't want to do it. I mean, there's nothing. Everything you're raising is not invalid. I mean, it's fine, but I think there's just a different view on it.
And what about the changes to the that are being made to the various zoning
Right,
areas.
and I think that's also part of the reason to bring this before the plan commission and say, okay, we're comfortable with the changes here. We don't like that here. We don't think it's appropriate to put that as a by right use in R1 or whatever we.
I'm saying,
Or even allowed as a
my
special
view,
exception.
if
here.
major and minor move forward.
Yeah.
Most of what that my concern on this chart is the major ones.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
right
yeah.
now,
Which are special
C1,
exception all over the place, right?
yeah, I mean.
And that's about,
and the
that's a
fact is
valid
that
point. yeah.
A1 now cannot have a major at all.
Well, and that, I think that's a valid point. I think that's really something that we would need the feedback from the commission as to whether do we want to do that? Is that the right thing to do? Because obviously, when it goes before the public hearing, if we want to make some adjustments prior to that, we can, or obviously after the public hearing is closed, you can make any amendments to it you think are appropriate.
That I think I'm just, and I don't want to belabor this anymore, but those kind of things, I mean, I can make the argument that AT shouldn't have any solar in it.
Yeah.
Because it's telling me that that is likely to be developed and now we're not developing it. We're actually, well, I mean, you can consider that development, but it's not housing, it's not business, it's not.
Sure. No, those are valid points. I think that a lot of that stuff was part of the discussion with by the solar committee when they came up and decided what the solar ordinance would be in this for the siding of this. So I think that was probably extensively discussed, but that's exactly the discussion that as commission you should be having this, especially when after the public hearings closed, as to, do we want it?
And I personally think that's the greatness of the special exception, because as we've seen in the past, all AT zone is not the same as far as the infrastructure to support what development. Are we talking about residential development? We're talking commercial development. Well, goes back to public water and public sewer. If it's not there, you're not going to get any major residential development. So then what's the next essentially highest and best use for that property, regardless if it's on AT or A2?
I'd like to hear if anybody else has any comments. I'm hogging the stage here.
And just one point to make on special exception, I think sometimes a special exception is not something that means we don't want that to happen in that property. So if it's allowed as a special exception, that means that something we think is appropriate to happen there. It just needs to be happening in a controlled manner. If we don't want it to happen, we just don't list it. It's just, it can't be a by right use, can't be in by special exception. That's when we're saying, no, in this zone district, you can't do that. So by saying it can be done in the special exception, we actually mean, yes, it can be done here. It just we need to have some control over it. So that sometimes is a misconception. Some people view special exceptions mean that you're not supposed to do it there, and it rarely happens, but no. So the appropriate thing would be, as the commission would be, determine, do you want it by right, by special exception, or not at all? And that's
And
That's
so
a
I
clear
personally
distinction.
didn't have a problem with the way it was right now in terms of that. That I'm sorry, I said I was going to be quiet.
Anyway, just I want to make that point, but that's the reason why we present the way we did, I think.
Any other thoughts on the matter?
What are our choices to
Yeah,
continue or move to public hearing?
Yeah, Neil, what you're looking for from us is saying move forward and advertise it to go to the public hearing. Is that what you're looking for?
Correct. If there's a consensus.
Okay, given the discussion that was just had, any thoughts on that, gentlemen? I got kind of wrapped up in that. I'm not sure I understand everything.
And it could very well be beneficial, because this is something that we did spend some time with, and it's very beneficial to have y'all's individual comments. So staff could certainly reach out to each member and sort of develop a consensus. And it very well may be the consensus that you have a major public utility by use by special exception in every zoning district. Maybe not every, maybe not residential, and R1 and R2 would be the ones I would not suggest. But it's obviously that way in a conservation zone. You have a major as a special exception currently, and a minor as a permitted use, and that could hold true in the agricultural zone. I'm sorry, in the agricultural and limited use zone.
Chris, I'm one to keep moving forward and get things done, but I do think each of us needs to spend a little more time. I reviewed it, but given the current circumstances, I think we ought to take another another run at it, and postpone it again. I hate to do it. We
No,
postponed.
that's it.
last
That's all right. It makes
I think we
for good
need to-
discussion. It makes for good ordinance for
I
sure.
think we need to push it out and discuss this individually and get our thoughts in there to give staff a little direction.
Just as a clarification, so in the A1 district, the public utility service major was not a special exception. Was that on purpose, or was that just an omission of error?
I mean, it was on purpose, and some of that was, what type of public, obviously, as you know, our A2, A1 zoning district are your really steep mountain slopes. You're not even talking about the foothills of the mountain. You're talking about some significant slope. And so what type of public utility would be going in that direction? But it is worthwhile to explore that further and say, hey, obviously I could foresee a major transmission line potentially. But as far as any water or sewer services, you're in the foreseeable future and then some, you're not going to get any water and sewer services in the A1 zoning district.
Okay.
But so that was thought out, but that's something that we can further explore for sure.
Maybe explore the, I thought it was odd that it's a special exception in the conservation district, but not in the A1, but the way you described it kind of makes sense.
And that's solely because they're obviously the large majority of our conservation zones, national forest, exempt from national forest and or Department of Game and Wildlife Resources, excuse me. With that being said, we're not going to see those special exceptions anyway.
Right.
But it is worthwhile to note that there are some county-owned properties that are zone conservation. Mostly schools, I'll say, but.
Does it hurt the staff if we push out again on this thing?
No, not at all. I mean, that again, it's good discussion. That's why I told Mr. Sabrizi earlier, always up for discussion. I just think it makes a better ordinance. It allows us some time to put some more thought into the draft definitions.
And I'd say the one complication though is I know that we, when this first started this push, was the concern that we had that there would be more applications coming in because of the changes at the federal level politically. Now we have potential for changes in political at the Commonwealth level now with
changes in the federal level. Most people assume that there won't be as many projects going forward, but clearly in order to qualify for the federal tax breaks that existed before, and the projects have to be started is not the word to use, but prior to the end of 2027. So that's part of the reason why we thought it'd be good to get this in place as soon as possible. However,
that was the Board of Supervisors,
and that they did have. But I'm not aware that we don't have any applications
currently don't
now. No. So so there may be no applications that come now. Maybe some, although I'll stop. We just don't. The idea, we'd love to have the ordinance in place prior to new applications come. Yeah.
And I guess my point when I started all this was the fact is that I had reconciled myself that the way the ordinance, what I had read at that point was good. These other changes I'm not so good with.
And so, and I think that as Chris was mentioning, still, there's no reason to rush something if we're not feeling that we're ready. And it's more important to get this right than to get it done. So, I think it's perfectly acceptable to postpone it as you're talking about.
But why couldn't we keep the definitions, the public utility definitions, the way they are right now and move forward with the document?
Well, I think, that's y'all's call. That's how, if you want to do it.
You also have to start thinking about where it's going to be a use by special exception. Yeah. Right now, public utilities are used by special exception,
which is okay with me.
That's fine. So anyway, those are all of your.
Unless you're talking about something with immediate vicinity, I don't think, as Mr. Dryden stated, I don't think it's worthwhile our time to have a special exception for a pump station on a particular one development.
Yeah.
Agreed. And so, I personally need time to digest it all. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Don't apologize. We appreciate the conversation.
Motion.
But I
to-
do want y'all to start thinking about, yeah, as far as the permitted uses, the current definition, where you would put it as a permitted use and where you would put it as a use by special exception. And if you don't have these two categories, how are you going to make that distinction?
Okay. All right. Hey, that discussion is temporarily closed. We're going to push it off.
And so we can bring it back as an agenda item on
Let's try
December
to do it
10th
next
for
month.
discussion.
Let's stay on it.
What are
Yeah.
we gonna get that we don't have right now?
Feedback from individual planning commission members after they have
Yes.
time to think about it.
Yeah.
But you're gonna do it before the next meeting, not. at the
Well,
next
I think they're going to contact us and give them our own feedback.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, before we adjourn, I've got one thing, Neil, I mentioned this to you today. Goes back to Cars Creek. Am I allowed to say something about Cars Creek right now?
You can do whatever you want now. It's now.
Okay.
it's the discussion time.
Hey, Chris, I think I talked to you about this once. That whole corner out there, I mean, that parking lot there, I think it's VDOT land or something, but that whole area would look so much better out there if they put a couple of islands or something around that thing, kind of isolated that parking lot. I know it's a process and there's no hurry to get it done, but that would go a long way to making that corner look a lot better. It's just, can we figure out what if it's a terrible idea, it's a terrible idea, but it's worth looking into if we could just make that corner look better.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. And so the collection center itself, the entrance to the collection center and the exit, and of course, the parking lot you're referring to is on the VDOT right of way. All of the improvements associated with the collection center are actually on Bark's property, and we have I can't remember how many year lease we have for that particular purpose for Bark. And so there is some landscaping that could be done on both. VDOT is sensitive, obviously, on what type of landscaping, but others in the area have had success on planting larger trees in the VDOT right of way, which is not always the case, but we could certainly explore that.
Yeah, and there's no hurry on that given the situation out there, but it certainly would make that corner look better just to clean it up a little bit, so some little landscape
There's
buffer
also
there.
been complaints about the lighting at the collection center as well. I think the standard we're putting on the park may not be the same as we have.
Well, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, Tony.
I say there has been some complaints about the lights from the
There was a
the collection
comment,
center. and they
comment from
probably
the
don't have
gallery. If they turned off the lights at night at the recycling center, it'd be better. But anyway, I don't want to burden the staff with more work, Chris, but if somehow we could make the corner look better, it would solve a little bit of these problems. So anyway, that's my thought for the night. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion adjourned.
In between everything, I was like, I get the information out. That's correct. That's how you're defining what I-
You got to pee, Bob.